back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
The UFC has been unable to find a headliner for UFC in St. Louis, so they have promoted the previously announced Jeremy Stephens vs. Doo Ho Choi to the main event, and I've got to say I love that fight. That's going to be an amazing fight, must see that fight. But the rest of this card, the main card actually, now that I'm looking at it, is good. But not counting the main card, if you're just going for the full card, hey, what the fuck am I saying, man? I'm looking at this card, man, it made it seem like this card was going to be whack, and at first I thought I glimpsed over it. Man, this is going to be a hell of a card. What the hell am I saying? I know there's going to be some people that don't like this card, and they hear that the UFC was unable to find a big fight for the main event, so they're probably going to be critics of this card, but I'm looking at this card low-key as a hardcore fan of MMA, and I probably want to see over half of these fights. Look at this. We've got Jeremy Stephens versus Doo Ho Choi, which is now the headliner, as the UFC was unable to find a quote-unquote big fight for the headline. But that's a big fight if you're talking about entertainment value, and if you're just talking about for the featherweight division, a really fun fight. Is it a title eliminator? No. But Jeremy Stephens versus Doo Ho Choi is going to be a great fight and some great matchmaking. It's going to be the main event, Korean Superboy versus Jeremy Stephens. But then we've also got Vitor Belfort versus Uriah Hall. You're going to tell me that's not a fucking dope fight? Great matchmaking for both of those guys. You can't, I mean, Vitor Belfort might be a little past his prime. Uriah Hall coming through. He was on a little bit of a losing streak, got a big comeback win in his last fight. That's great matchmaking as far as I'm concerned. Then you got Paige VanZant versus Jessie Jess Clark. Yo, I cannot fucking wait to see Jessie Jess Clark's next fight in the UFC. Her UFC debut was versus Bec Rawlings. I believe it went to decision at UFC Sydney, or UFC, if it wasn't UFC Sydney, it was UFC Auckland, but I believe it was UFC Sydney. And Jessie Jess fucking Clark, man, I loved that fight. It was her UFC debut, and I became a fan just watching that fight, as she was throwing all of her strikes with like vicious intention, and she was fighting like a friend, I believe. And it was just a really fun fight. She fought Bec Rawlings, and now she's fighting Paige VanZant. That's 3 fucking fights I can't wait to see. You got Michael Johnson making his featherweight debut versus Darren Elkins. I believe Darren Elkins is on a 4 or 5 fight winning streak. Some of those might be comebacks as well. Fighting Michael Johnson, moving down to a new weight class after that Justin Gaethje knockout. Then you've got James Krause, a UFC veteran who also fought on the Ultimate Fighter season 25 versus Alex White. I don't really know who Alex White is. Matt Frevola versus Marco Polo Reyes. I've heard of Marco Polo Reyes. I've also heard of Matt Frevola. I don't know much about him though. I've heard more of Marco Polo Reyes. He sticks out more just because I think he had maybe an impressive finish recently. Thiago Alves versus Zach Cummings. That's going to be a great fight. Thiago Alves was supposed to fight Mike Perry. Whenever that hurricane hit Miami, I believe, he wasn't able to take the fight, stayed with his family. Mike Perry fought Alex Reyes on that night. Now Thiago Alves is coming back to fight Zach Cummings. That's going to be a fucking great fight. Jessica Eye on the same card as Paige VanZant. They were originally scheduled to fight. They got canceled, and now for some reason they're on the same card, not fighting each other. Jessica Eye said Paige VanZant's ducking her. Paige VanZant's like, yeah, no, everybody just wants to fight me. But Kalindra Faria versus Jessica Eye, great fight. Talita Bernardo versus Irene Aldana. Heard of Talita Bernardo. I don't know about Irene Aldana. Danielle Taylor versus JJ Aldrich. Are those chicks or dudes? I mean, when you see the name Danielle Taylor, you think chicks, but then when you see JJ Aldrich, I don't know why I'm thinking of like an NBA player. Aldrich, Cole Aldrich. All right. Yeah, I think that's a chick fight. I don't know much about those chicks though. Then Kyung Ho Kang versus Guido Canetti. Okay, the bottom 3 fights, of course, on every single card. I mean, the Fight Pass prelims, you usually don't know much about those people, but you can't fucking tell me you're not buying, and it's free TV. So when I say buying, you can't tell me you're not watching Jeremy Stephens versus the Korean Superboy, Uriah Hall versus Vitor Belfort, Paige VanZant, Jessie Jess Clark, Darren Elkins, Michael Johnson. What the fuck you telling me, Matt? I almost came into this video like, yo, is this card, like, is this gonna be the first UFC card I'm not excited for? But now that I examine the fucking card, I'm still excited. The UFC was not able to find a quote-unquote big fight for UFC St. Louis main event. Jeremy Stephens versus Doo Ho Choi has been promoted, but really, now that I'm looking at it, I'm still going to be tuning in. Now, the numbers might not be the greatest because there's not a lot of star power. We'll have to see if Paige Van Zant and Jeremy Stevens and Doo Ho Choi can kind of carry this card, as well as Vitor Belfort and Uriah Hall. It'll be interesting to see the numbers. I mean, without a huge fight or a quote-unquote big fight as the main event, that's why it's more interesting to me. But as far as the entertainment value, if you're watching these fights, it's going to be entertaining. There's some great matchmaking here, and it's not going to be like a fucking boxing undercard where if you're not a fan, you're probably going to fall asleep, because there's some good matchmaking here. It's not like, you know what I'm saying, Darren Elkins versus Michael Johnson. That's going to be a great fight. Thiago Alves versus Zach Cummings, all the way up through the card to the main event. Jeremy Stevens versus Doo Ho Choi. There's going to be some fucking great fights, entertaining fights. So I'll be watching this card, and I'm going to try and get everyone else around me that wants to see some fucking great fights. The Microwave, he said he didn't watch Robbie Lawler versus Rafael Dos Anjos, but he said he wanted to. He's a super casual fan, but he was like, damn, I wish I watched that card. And he doesn't say that much. So with that being said, I think the casuals are starting to become a little more hardcore. They're starting to tune in a little more. We're taking them through the process. They probably won't be with us tonight as we watch Jeremy Stevens versus Doo Ho Choi in the rest of this card, but it is what it is. Fuck the casuals. Let the full-time family know what the fuck you talking about in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOG.